Pink Floyd at Pompeii, finally officially out in all its many formats, in all its glory and splendor. I'm going to break it down for you, and I'm also going to give you my theory why I believe there's 5 Pink Floyds. So set your controls for the heart of the sun. We're talking all things Floyd. Hi, I'm Bob. Welcome back to United States of Analog. How you doing out there? Oh no, thank you. I'm doing good. You know, I mean, pretty good for a Tuesday anyway. Pink Floyd at Pompeii has been out for a few days now, so a new Pink Floyd album is always a cause for celebration. And this one, I believe, is the first Pink Floyd album in several years to be worthy of the Pink Floyd name, and I'll explain in a little while when I break down the album. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. If you disagree with anything I say, these are going to be my opinions and theories and things that I've read. I have no connection to the band, though I did meet David Gilmore once, and I had a nice chat with him backstage at an arena where I used to work. And I've actually been to Pompeii. I've stood in the Roman amphitheater, and while everyone else in our group was looking at the ruins, all I can think of is this is where Pink Floyd performed. So that was a special day for me on that vacation. Listen, I think there have been 5 different Pink Floyds, and I'll explain. There was the Syd Barrett Pink Floyd, the very experimental, early on, almost, well, I say experimental, but some of it was kind of, you know, poppy. But Syd Barrett seemed to self-destruct and departed the band, and that made way for David Gilmore to take a key role in the band, and that led into the second Pink Floyd, which was the experimental, prog rocky, space rocky Pink Floyd that I couldn't always get into, though I will say I've been a Pink Floyd fan since about Obscured by Clouds, when that came out when I was probably maybe a sophomore or junior in high school. I got way into that album. And that second era, that second Pink Floyd, I think carried itself all the way through Meddle. Then the unexpected happened, something that I don't think anyone could predict. The seemingly impossible happened with the release of Dark Side of the Moon. And I don't know if anyone, even the band itself, saw it coming. The success of Dark Side of the Moon, which was so accessible, so musical, so good, and not just the music, but the lyrics, the graphics, the package, the whole thing just all came together all of a sudden from this band that I think up until then you could take or leave. Now, maybe I feel that way because I wasn't into drugs. I felt like Pink Floyd was kind of a drug band, you know, like the original jam band, but that may not be fair. I did enjoy some early Pink Floyd, but when they got into that golden age period, the third Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and I'm going to cut off the third Pink Floyd there, and I'll give you my reason in a second. That was an amazing transformation, an amazing metamorphosis that hadn't taken place very many times in the history of rock. I'll cite some other examples. I mean, you can go back to the Beatles, right? Who in 1 or 2 albums went from this, the Yeah, Yeah, Yeah Beatles, to the Rubber Soul Beatles. That was a very fast transition. And then there's one of my favorites, Bruce Springsteen, who went from this, not a bad album, but to this. And that was an amazing transformation. And of course, Pink Floyd, Meddle, to Dark Side of the Moon. I have them both here, luckily. There you go. Well, I should do it like that or like this. I don't know. Anyway, no one saw it coming, I don't believe, and I don't really know the reasons for it. In the case of the Beatles, well, to quote the late comedian Bill Hicks, Beatles, drugs, positive effect. That may have had something to do with their creativity and the fact that they came off the road and were spending more time in the studio experimenting. But, you know, that was a good thing. I think we're all glad that that happened, though I think the Yeah, Yeah, Yeah Beatles, the I Wanna Hold Your Hand Beatles could have went on for many years, certainly would have survived the 70s. Maybe if they'd stayed together, they might have even gone disco. In the case of Bruce Springsteen, I think with The Wild and the Innocent and Born to Run, this was his last stand. This was do or die, because this very well could have been his last album if Born to Run didn't happen. So do or die, experimental drugs, whatever it takes to make that transition for a rock band, that's what it takes. But in the case of Pink Floyd, no one really knows how they got so much commercial success so fast in one album's time, one quick giant leap. And that leads into Wish You Were Here, which was fantastic, and of course Animals, which is good in its own right, though maybe not a fan favorite. The fourth phase, I call it the Roger Waters phase. From the Wall on, Roger Waters and his ego was driving the ship. He was doing the lion's share of the imaging and the creativity, the songwriting, the themes, and all of that. And it got a little old. I liked the final cut. Sonically, it was good, but some of the themes were just getting a little sad and old, in my personal opinion. And then finally we get to the fifth version of Pink Floyd, which is the David Gilmore Pink Floyd, after Roger Waters left, and one of the most mysterious partings in rock history. Pink Floyd had a lot of firsts, but I don't think anybody has ever matched that kind of cataclysmic separation that Roger Waters and David Gilmore suffered. Now, I haven't done a lot of research into this. It could be money, it could be a girl in money, it could be creative differences, it could be the fact that some of the creativity was taken away from David Gilmore, Roger Waters' ego. Who knows? We may never get to the bottom of why these guys split and never made up. It's one of the most amazing stories in rock history and one of the saddest stories in rock history. But the fifth version of Pink Floyd rolled on with David Gilmour and had even greater success in a lot of ways, especially in the touring department, playing huge stadiums and arenas and things like that, where Roger Waters went on to do many great tours on his own, living primarily off the success of The Wall, though he's had several great albums like Amused to Death, etc., etc. I'm not bagging on Roger Waters. I've seen a lot of Roger Waters shows. I've seen a lot of David Gilmour shows. But I wish Pink Floyd could have continued what they started with Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. I wish they would have rolled on. Of course, they would be playing the Sphere in Vegas now. That's one of the most amazing things to me. I guess money doesn't matter to these guys anymore, but could you imagine Pink Floyd at the Sphere? A reunited Pink Floyd at the Sphere, though there's 3 remaining members, but that would be pretty amazing. But that's not going to happen, and Roger and David have made that clear. But we do have this to console us. Pink Floyd at Pompeii. Not live at Pompeii, because the boys in the band didn't consider this to be a live album. There's no audience. They played at the amphitheater at Pompeii in front of just their crew and select friends and family, I guess. And there are overdubs and such, which make this not necessarily a true live album, though. I would think a lot of bands, from the Stones, I don't want to out them all, but there's a lot of bands that go in and overdub guitar parts and drum parts for live albums to make them a little sweeter and cover up the mistakes. But we're going to forgive Pink Floyd for any of that and just accept Pink Floyd at Pompeii for what it is, and we're glad it's out, an official release. This is a beautiful Columbia Records 2 LP set. The 2 LP set contains 2 slabs of very heavy, thick vinyl. I don't know if it's 200 gram or not. It's at least 180 gram, but to me it felt even a little heavier than that. Very nice pressings. Of course, we're talking about Steven Wilson remixes of this material, originally created in 1971 for the film Pink Floyd at Pompeii, a documentary which was shot in 71, released in 72, just before Dark Side of the Moon was released. This version is remastered by Mike Showell at Abbey Road. Pardon me, Mike, I should have researched the pronunciation of your name. I've heard it both ways. Anyway, remastered, remixed. As far as the sound, I can't complain for the age of these recordings. I don't know what sources they had, how it was recorded, but the recording sounds very clean. You don't have that live audience kind of distracting you from the music. It sounds, for the most part, pretty studio. The bass and the drum sound really clear, really solid, a great rock and roll record, and a reminder of who Pink Floyd was before they became Pink Floyd. Part 3. So just from a historic standpoint alone, this is a significant record. It's a great sounding record, and it's just fun to play. Finally available to the consumer. It was a bootleg for many, many years because Pink Floyd, again, wasn't interested in releasing this as a traditional live album. Everything about this package is super cool. I like that they've kept kind of a 70s vibe with the artwork. Yeah, they could have done the Hypnosis thing, but I think they chose a more kind of vintage vibe. Like this is maybe a cover that they would have done. Very kind of reminiscent of, I don't know. Like that reminds me for some reason of Ummagumma.
Ummagumma?
They've got this kind of Woodstock split screen thing going on here. Photographs are marginal, but that's what they had at the time. No one in the band thought that we'd still be talking about Pink Floyd in 2025. So it's amazing how little footage we have and photographs we have of Pink Floyd to lean on. But who knew? You know, they didn't know that we would care in 2025, but we do. Inside the track's Pompeii intro, which is the heartbeat thing that they do, and that was a foreshadowing of the sound effect that bookends Dark Side of the Moon. Echoes, Part 1, careful with that axe, Eugene, saucer full of secrets, set the controls for the heart of the sun. One of these days, Mademoiselle Knobs, and Echoes Part 2, which was not in the original film in 1972, but in 1974 there was a director's cut, and they added Echoes Part 2. I think the Echoes part of this compilation is the most significant part of the compilation, not only sonically. It sounds very good. They did an outstanding job taking these old tapes and making them sound great in 2025. But I think it's Echoes, Part 1 and 2, where you start to hear a little bit of that Dark Side of the Moon coming in. A little bit of that, maybe Us and Them, I think. You're getting some of those vibes. In fact, when I was listening to this, I thought, yeah, I kind of hear Us and Them in Echoes. And you're getting notes of Breathe as well. So yeah, there is some foreshadowing. Yeah, I say it's kind of an unbelievable leap between Meddle and Dark Side of the Moon, but when you really jump into some of the stuff from Meddle, like Echoes, you're starting to get hints of what can be, but not to the extent, the way Dark Side of the Moon blew up with fans and even non-fans at the time. Everybody had this album. It was a test record for every stereo you bought in your youth, and I think it still continues to be played at audio shows and when anyone gets a new system. First thing you do, put on Dark Side of the Moon. Second thing you do, put on The Wall or Wish You Were Here. Third thing, put on some Diana Krall. I'm just kidding. I just got back from another audio show. That's why I had Diana Krall on my mind. But the package is great here. The graphics, the printing, very good stock. The insides of the sleeves, you're not going to be able to see it very well. Maybe you can see it a little bit here. The insides of the sleeves are even printed. That costs a little more money to do. Again, this kind of Woodstock split screen thing that you get here is kind of gloss photos on a matte finish. That's very trendy. And then you get these nice heavy-duty inner sleeves, which I just store in here. I've got my discs in anti-static sleeves. So you've got some references here, some more really grainy photographs, because again, they didn't think to document this whole thing. Well, they documented it in a documentary, but as far as photos go, we don't have a lot of great photos from that period. And then you get one more nod to kind of Dark Side of the Moon. They include a full-size poster. Not a full-size movie one sheet, but a, what is this? This is a 2x3 poster. That's nice. Folded. I don't know anybody older than a college student that might have a use for a poster with folds, but I'm going to try to find something to do with it. Can you get rid of the folds? I see these amazing videos where they can take a poster and spray it down with water or something and then dry it and it gets the folds out. I don't know. I'm not going to try that, but I'll find a place for this or give it to one of my kids as if they would want it. Anyway, totally surprised by the music. I can't say I'm digging every track. Mademoiselle Knobs, kind of a mystery to me. Oh, also there's alternative takes of Careful with That Axe, Eugene, and A Saucer full of secrets. But the star of the show here echoes parts 1 and 2, and maybe one of these days too, as a key track, and that's I think the lead track on Meddle. So good on you, Columbia Records. Good on you, Pink Floyd, for the 2 LP Pink Floyd at Pompeii. Not called Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii, but Pink Floyd at Pompeii. Not originally intended for your stereo, but here it is in 2025. There are many other formats. It's been remixed in Atmos for Blu-ray. There are other box sets and CD releases and things like that. I stuck with the 2 LP version because I think it's true to the era, and this might be close to what Pink Floyd would have released back in the day, had they chosen to do it. And speaking of choosing to do it, there's another video right here for you. If you got a few more minutes, it's going to pop up. The geniuses at YouTube have pre-selected it for you, so go ahead and click on it. There it is. It's right there. Have a great Pink Floyd day, and we'll see you next time in United States of Analog.